Retailers have a long history of it. Cameras were originally put in stores to help detect and deter theft. Now, those cameras are used for much more.
Here we see a customer that's entered an aisle. He sort of moves from display to display, and he's clearly looking for something, but he's not taking anything off the shelf.
Marianne McDonough is the Vice President of Global Marketing for Verint Systems. The software company has made once dumb cameras smart. Its technology is used by giant retailers such as Home Depot and Target to analyze customer movement as it's occurring in order to improve sales.
That's an alert right there. What that red circle means is that this guy has now dwelled in this particular aisle beyond the period of time that this retailer is comfortable with. And that alert says to somebody in customer service, go send somebody now to say to this guy, can I help you find something?
And so when I walk into a store that has your system in and has cameras, as every store does now.
Absolutely.
They count me, then they watch me if I'm sort of loitering in an aisle, and then they also know if I buy anything, I guess.
That's correct.
It's a surveillance tool that McDonough says CEOs are learning to love.
The CEO actually watches video. He's got the system in his office, and he looks into all the different stores and what's going on. It's one thing to get a report delivered to your desk that says, you know, here are the peak times. It's another thing to actually watch that peak time activity happening.
Verint's system is only in its infancy. In time, there's no telling what a retailer will know about you once you enter a store.
I would say the sky's the limit in terms of the amount of things that we can do, and the more we understand about behavior, the better the solutions get, and the more intelligence they'll provide to retailers over time.
The retailers, do they draw a line in terms of how much they want to know about their customers' behavior? Are they concerned at all in terms of privacy or something like that?
Our job as a vendor is to provide solutions for them to really do the things that they need to do, and it's up to our individual customers to sort of walk that line between, you know, transparency and privacy.
As is often the case in the emerging surveillance society, law enforcement is a key beneficiary. Cameras using Verint technology at this Home Depot in Jacksonville, Florida, played a crucial role in the conviction of a suspected murderer. In November of 2003, Robert Snyder strangled and stabbed his girlfriend, Pamela Noble, to death. Noble was found buried in the woods near Snyder's trailer. A shovel, like this one, was found at the murder scene. A decal on it indicated it was bought at Home Depot. Security cameras at the store showed Snyder buying the shovel.
They went back and matched up the times that it was purchased with our register cameras, and we were able to actually view that and see the shovel being purchased. And from there, the police were able to identify the suspect.
That videotape was used as evidence at trial. In April 2005, Robert Snyder was convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, where there are plenty of security cameras.
I had no idea who they were, why they existed, that they would know anything about me.
Dr. Amanda Reeve, a Fresno, California OBGYN, had never heard of ChoicePoint, but ChoicePoint had heard of her. It's ChoicePoint's business to know about you. The company maintains a database that has information on virtually every U.S. citizen. Its trove of personal data, an estimated 17 billion records, includes phone numbers, addresses, credit reports, property records, bank accounts, insurance policies, and social security numbers. It sells this information to major corporations, nonprofit organizations, and the government. ChoicePoint's detailed information is used by its clients to conduct employee background checks, direct marketing, and criminal investigations. It's also valuable to thieves intent on stealing our identity. Dr. Reeve didn't know any of that on the day she first heard the name on the radio.
economic data out today showed double the...
I heard a short piece of the news, something about this place called Choice Point. They had some sort of a breach of information. People's identities had been stolen.
In 2005, the Alpharetta, Georgia company discovered it had given accounts and therefore access to its database to identity thieves posing as legitimate businesses. Reeve found out she was at risk when she received this letter.
The letter talked about how my information may have been given out accidentally, and some people might have taken that information and they could apply for credit. Maybe I should call this number.
Reeve is one of about 145,000 people across the U.S. whose Choice Point data was stolen in February 2005. Every week, a major breach or loss of data occurs in the U.S. And it's not just Choice Point. Bank of America, Paymax, DSW, LexisNexis, MCI, Ralph Lauren, Time Warner, the Department of Justice, Citigroup, Boeing, Ford Motor, the Marines, universities, railroads, and the Department of Veteran Affairs. Just a few of the hundreds of entities that have reported a significant loss of data from hackers, lost laptops, lost backup tapes, or theft. And ironically, during the making of this documentary, General Electric, the parent company of CNBC, informed its correspondent, me, as well as its producer, that a GE laptop with our personal information, including our names and social security numbers, was stolen from a hotel room. For Reeve, the breach at Choice Point led her to discover 2 credit cards had been issued in her name. The thieves had charged about $7,000. Reeve didn't have to pay, but she is unsettled by the incident all the same.
The aftermath continues. I cannot apply for credit. I don't give information on the phone. It's nerve-wracking because that information is out there, and I don't have any control over which way it goes, how it gets used.
Choice Point officials declined to participate in our report. But its CEO Derek Smith did appear on CNBC shortly after the data breach occurred.
We sincerely apologize. I mean, the fact that that they've been, harmed and inconvenienced in any regard is something we take very seriously.
Choice Point is one of many corporations whose product is personal information. Increasingly, that information is being used not just by private industry, but by government as well, and for good reason. The Federal Privacy Act of 1974 limits the government's ability to compile dossiers on individual Americans. But there are fewer limits on private industry. And so data mining companies like Choice Point have become important tools for law enforcement.
We use a whole host of the, LexisNexis, those kinds of Choice Point, the companies that provide these services. The government subscribes to them, so we have access to them.
How important is the use of these databases?
Oh, it saves you days, weeks, months in doing your job. The ability to understand who owns property and the lineage on things. When I first started as an agent in the late 1980s, if I wanted to find out who owned a piece of property, it would require getting in your car, driving down to the public records, going in and doing research, and then finding big pages out of books and photocopying those pages and saying, aha, I've got this information. Now much of that information, virtually all of it, is available through databases.
My Choice Point report has the social security numbers of all my family members in it, which is useful if I ever want to steal their identity.
Chris Hoofnagel is an attorney and consumer advocate.
The biggest problem that we face comes from what's known as a commercial data broker. Companies like Axiom and Experian and Choice Point that amass personal information on you from many different sources, including marketing sources and public records. Just as an example, my Choice Point report is over 20 pages long, and I'm only in my 30s. So you can imagine that these companies can amass an incredible amount of information about you, including everywhere you've ever lived, the people with whom you've lived, your spouses, your employment information, what cars you drive, what accidents you've been in, pretty much everything about you that triggers a record. And they can use that information for many different purposes.